joining us. This is Sipping Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z. Hello, hello. Good
Hola,
morning.
¿cómo estás? Konnichiwa.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
All of the
and good
above.
night.
And good night.
yes. Wherever you are
Today's
listening from.
right. All our international followers. We love you. Thank you for
Yes.
listening, whatever time this is.
Mm-hmm.
So today, intimacy. Tough topic, interesting topic, and definitely something that people have preconceived notions about.
Absolutely.
That it is not what you think it is.
No, indeed it is not. Indeed it is not.
Mm-mm.
So we're going to jump right into it because we got a lot of information to share with you all today. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the tea of the day. I'm not going to go through the disclaimer because we're not talking about actual tea,
Right.
drinking tea. Natalie has some tea houses, tea spots that she's
Mm-hmm.
sharing with all of you all. So it is I would say, the tea spot on the table.
Yeah, so this is part of our little spring series of tea places to attend. So this one on the docket is Ching Chang Cha. It's on Wisconsin
Ooh,
Avenue
hold
in
on.
North.
Let me just brace myself because I wanted to laugh at that, and that's not right. Go ahead.
Tea. It's in Wisconsin Avenue, in Northwest DC. Reservations are not necessary. Seating times are from 11 to 7, Thursday through Mondays. And the tea menu is served a la carte. So this is an afternoon tea at Ching Ching Cha. I apologize. It immerses you in like the traditional Chinese tea ritual, and it celebrates the art of tea, which I think is pretty dope. So definitely one of those places when we're gonna take a field trip, and we'll tell you about when we get there. So you gather around these rosewood tables or platform seating, and you have like natural sunlight. It's very decorative. It comes through sunlight or what have you. There's a lot of ritualistic tea information that you find out while you're there, and you kind of learn about it while you're relaxing and learning the nourishing properties of tea. Food accompanies this sort of delicacies such as like dumplings, soup, and sweets to round out this elevated tea experience. So I think it's something you all should definitely check out. There's iced tea also available, which is the alternative to the hot blended house brewed tea, and fruit juices. And after finishing your afternoon tea, feel free to pop into the shop where you can get all of the little tea accoutrements that you may have used during your tea experience. So definitely check it out. I think it's something that you may enjoy.
Yes, that
Alrighty.
sounds delightful place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we just so you are aware, there's no real hot tea. There's two things, and I'm
Okay.
still trying to confirm if one is an April Fool's joke or not. So I have to wait. But I
Right.
heard if you're a fan of Abbott Elementary and you've been
Mm-hmm.
following Abbott Elementary, then you know um that Janine, which is Quinta Brunson's character, we were introduced to her sister, I think 2 episodes ago. And her sister, I forgot what her character's name is, but she's on The Bear, that show, The Bear, if you've seen that.
Mm-mm.
If you haven't seen that, the main character is a character, I forgot what his name is in Shameless, but he was one of the brothers in Shameless. He was a really smart one in Shameless. Um, and I started watching it. It's pretty good. I haven't finished it. um I just haven't finished it. I'll finish it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they've had the issue as sisters, and it's in relation to their mother. So everybody's been wondering when we're going to meet the mother. Apparently we're going to meet the mother soon because Taraji P Henson has been casted as the mother. Now I don't know how true this is. It was on Variety, so I saw it on a hood entertainment site first, and I was like, oh, this definitely has to be April Fool's. And then I saw it on Variety. And so I was like, well, maybe it's true. So we'll confirm in a couple days after April Fool's has passed. The other piece of tea is I guess a couple weeks ago, the last episode, if you've been listening, um Jonathan Majors was arrested
Mm-hmm.
and arraigned for domestic violence
Mm-hmm.
against his girlfriend. And there's been a lot of chatter surrounding that, and I still am keeping my my opinions about this matter to myself fully until all the whole story comes out. But it's not looking good for you, your boy. Um,
Really?
his attorney, I don't know who he has as an attorney, but his
Mm.
attorney is not giving what he should be giving. And maybe because Jonathan Majors isn't like at like I would expect, I guess the level of legal representation I'm expecting for Jonathan Majors is what I expect for like um uh Johnny Depp or
Ah, yeah.
a Denzel Washington
He's maybe
or
not there yet.
I don't think he is because he released these text messages that he's saying will prove that Jonathan Majors is innocent of what he did, but the text
Mm.
messages actually read that he did it, and the girlfriend is just retracting because she feels bad because it's really affecting his career, not because he didn't do it.
Oh.
She's basically like, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I told the cops that, I grabbed this all happened because I grabbed your phone. So if somebody says this all happens because I grabbed your phone, it leads me to believe that
Mm.
you feel like you're responsible for his outburst because you grabbed his property.
Right.
And regardless, yes, you should keep your hands to yourself and you should keep your hands off of other people's property, but that doesn't give that person the right to then choke you to the point where
Agreed.
you pass out.
Correct.
Like and allegedly. So
Right.
I'm keeping a close eye on this. Um
Oh boy.
I don't know. It's not like I said. It's not looking good for
I
your
would have
boy.
thought somebody will have advised him to get a better lawyer
I'm
by now.
assuming that somebody probably did because let me just say this: if I were his attorney, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just
Right.
said we adamantly support our clients' um,
Innocence.
innocence and we
Oh.
will, we have whatever evidence that will prove that he's not responsible or guilty for this action. This is all we're going to say at the matter at this time. And then I would leave it at that because you say he's not innocent, but then he gets arraigned. And when you get arraigned, it's telling me that the DA feels like they have enough evidence to
Right.
actually charge
Charge
your
him.
client. Um, and then she went to the hospital, and apparently there
Oh.
were visible enough. The bruises that were on her were visible enough and severe enough for them the police to decide to take her to the hospital. Apparently, she passed out from being choked. So she didn't choke herself.
Right.
So because of those facts, I would have, as his lawyer, just said that, left it alone. And I'm speaking purely from a legal standpoint, folks. I'm not speaking, so don't come at me. I'm speaking from a legal standpoint. Legally, if he would have done, like, from a legal standpoint, doing that and representing my client, we know that social media rules everything.
Yep.
The more fuel, it's a fire, and the more you give it, the greater the fire is going to grow. If you
Mm-hmm.
just said that and left it alone, people would have forgot about it, or at least stopped talking about it
Yeah.
for a while, because our attention span in the news cycle is so
Two
short.
seconds.
It wouldn't have even been a blip, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a blip and then people would have forgotten about it until something else came out, right? Because think about it. We've forgotten all about Tory Lanez being locked up,
Uh,
but Tory Lanez has been appealing. He has a new attorney, all of these things. So like a story will come out and I'm like, damn, I forgot all about Tory Lanez. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I've been more focused on the fact that, let me say, I've been saying, I hope Megan's good. I hope she's taking care of herself. The bitch has been taking care of herself. She's been drinking her
Yes.
water, working out, and minding her business. Let
She
me tell
really
you,
has. She looks
her body,
amazing. She
oh
looks
Lord,
amazing.
her body.
Mm. Who is her trainer? Because I used to watch her little training sessions that she had on
Let me tell
IG.
you,
I'd be like, oh, that's what you do? Let me get myself in the gym and follow your workout, ma'am.
hello, good morning. Because let me say something. I don't want a bad built body. I don't want a build a bear body. I don't want a Lego body, a Mr. Potato Head body. I want a Megan Thee Stallion body. And what I mean by that is all natural. Like I'm not gonna say she
Yes.
didn't. She could have gotten some stuff sucked or whatever, but she's not silicone filled.
No.
She looks good.
Good. Good.
I'm talking
Good.
about like
Good.
if I were to see her in the street and she wasn't Megan Thee Stallion, she I would literally go to her and say, "Ma'am,
Ma'am.
You's a bad bitch. You look good from head to toe.
I saw a couple of her pictures just this week and I was like, OMG.
And you can tell, like, because I've been on social media enough, I can tell people who have gotten work done and who have gotten, like, some work, but have worked on themselves.
Some little
Right.
enhancements.
I feel like she's probably maybe had some lipo, right?
Hey,
But
I'm for that.
yeah, she's
Team
probably
lipo over
had,
here.
yes, she probably had a little bit of lipo sucked out her sides and her stomach.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna take that away from her. But everything else, her ass, you could tell that is her ass. And this is,
It don't look like Nikki's.
you could tell people's asses are real the way that it jiggles. That's a real
Yes.
ass right there. That is a real ass.
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce has had work done. I don't think she's had implants,
Mm-hmm.
silicone, but I definitely think she's probably had a butt lift,
Yeah.
maybe her breast lifted, something sucked here
After
and
the
there,
babies. After the
right
babies.
after the babies, and that's your business, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
The mommy makeover.
yeah, but she ain't got no silicone in the ass, no silicone in the all that is just too much. In the face, her
Mm.
face is looks good.
It's slim. It's proportional.
I'm sorry, but she just looks good. She's out here looking
Amazing.
absolutely amazing.
Mm.
And she looks her age,
True, which is not
which is
how
a lot of
some
girls
people
that are
look.
her age aren't looking their
They
age
look
because they're
old.
already getting fillers and all that stuff. She looks good. Sorry for going on that rant, but she looks good. She looks good. I can't. She looks good.
Yeah.
I saw her perform like a quick little thing from her performance at like the AT&T festival in
Mm-hmm.
Houston. Sis hair is on, like, she just looks good. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, Mel. Let me tell you, Meg, if there was ever somebody that was like, I'm gonna take a break and when I come back, I'm gonna have both of my feet on your necks, on your
that would
neck. I'm
be
gonna have both
that would
my
be
feet
Megan
on your
Thee
neck.
Stallion.
It would be Megan Thee Stallion because she came out with her feet on everybody's neck
Like say
collectively.
something.
Say something because you
Say
can.
something, boo.
And let me tell you, karma is real. Energy is real. And I feel like the energy you
Mm.
put out, I say this all the time, is the energy that you get back. And I feel like when you do good or when you're being truthful and you're being true to yourself and who you are, you look it.
Mm.
I'm just gonna say, sis looks like she's been doing what she's supposed to do, and karma has been serving her well. So,
Definitely drinking her water.
but
Mm.
that's it. Nothing else.
Mm. All righty, all right, all right.
All
We're
right,
gonna
all
take
right, all
all right, all right, all
right.
right. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna jump right into our conversation. And we're back. So we're talking about intimacy. A lot of people have a preconceived notion of what they think it is. They think it's purely sexual, which it is not. So it's a feeling of closeness and connection in an interpersonal relationship. It is an essential part of intimate relationships, but it also plays an important role in your relationships with your friends, your family, and other acquaintances and how you relate to individuals. To strengthen your relationships, you should really try to work on there's four different types of intimacy: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. So most people think intimacy is physical automatically, and it is so much deeper than that. And not all relationships have intimate type of relationships. They just don't get to that level. Some are kind of surface and dictate how you interact with people. So the physical one, which everyone automatically goes to, refers to your body closeness. It can involve hugging, kissing, personal space, holding hands, but it's not exclusive to
Mm-hmm.
partners, to romantic partners. Because think about mother and child, father and child relationships. You hug and kiss your child, and you keep them close to you, you hold hands, and that's a non-sexual type of intimacy. Involves safe touch, enhancing. It can also, of course, enhance feelings of physical closeness, which is where everyone's kind of mind goes to. But one of these things that you need to make sure that you're having is an open conversation about what level of intimacy is comfortable for you and what boundaries are associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so important to make sure you're cultivating that, but making sure everybody is on the same page, in the
Mhm.
same book, in the same library for what they consider is okay for physical closeness. Um, and then as far as emotional, this one I think is one of the more challenging ones because a lot of folks are not emotionally equipped to understand or engage in what this would look like. It kind of being transparent with your feelings and your fears, and you don't feel like you're going to be judged, so you can be open and vulnerable. Like we talked about this when we did our episode on vulnerability. You need to take risks and be open to have this type of intimacy with somebody, and you not necessarily. I guess an example would be, for example, I was on a plane once, and
Mhm.
this lady was sitting next to me and divulged all her personal intimate relationship goings ons with me. To
Mhm.
me, I don't have an intimate relationship with that person. I did not want that
Right.
information.
Right.
But but some people, there's levels to this.
Mhm.
It can be developed by listening better and being able to speak clearly and feel like you're heard,
Right.
which I think is like huge because a lot of people don't feel like they're heard, so they don't open themselves up. They're not vulnerable, and so they're not able to develop this level of intimacy or this type of intimacy.
You
Would you?
know,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
I think when it comes to relationships, when we're talking about romantic relationships,
Hmm.
I feel like there is a disconnect
Hmm.
between the physical intimacy and emotional intimacy.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I'm someone, for example, it's hard for me to have physical intimacy with someone if there's no emotional intimacy there.
Hmm.
Like it's just difficult.
I think
And
it's part of trust.
yeah, and there's also even a term for it. I forgot what the term is for it, but it's like people who can't be physical with someone until they feel like there's a deep
Connection in.
connection there, right?
Hmm.
It's just difficult.
Yeah.
It's just difficult. But I feel like some people, like you said, when we're talking about intimacy, some people just feel like the only intimacy there is focusing on the
Physical.
physical.
Hmm.
There isn't. I feel like that's the main one that people talk about, and people don't realize that there has to be for a lot of people there has to be an emotional connection in order for you, an emotional intimacy in
Hmm.
order to get to that physical intimacy.
Agreed. And I
Um,
think, yeah, yeah. I have a point for when you're done.
Yeah, but
Finish your
that's
thought.
in romantic relation well, not even I'm speaking from a romantic sexual relationship, but you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, it's also from a familial standpoint
Hmm.
too, because I feel like if you aren't able to hug your parents, your
Yeah.
children, if you aren't
There's
able
a
to
disconnect.
express that type of physical love and intimacy with with someone who's in your family or friends, it is definitely rooted in some lack of emotional
Hmm.
intimacy. I
Yeah.
just feel like it is.
It makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you're very disconnected, like the strong silent type that the person knew that they'll say their partner, or not their partner, their parent loves them, but they just don't show it.
Right.
But
Right.
that still
Right.
causes an emotional disconnect for that person later
Right.
because now they're like, I didn't get hugs when I was little. I didn't get this and that. So now they can't
They
do
don't know
that
how to
with
do
you.
that.
They don't know
Right.
how to do that beyond just hitting the skins in the romantic sense.
In them, yeah.
Because I think it spills over in your non sexual intimate relationships will spill over into your romantic relationships and how you engage with your partner.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
feel like in my family, growing up, there was definitely a lack of both physical
Mhm.
intimacy and emotional intimacy. My family
Mhm.
was just, and I feel like you will find this a lot in Black African American families. I feel like
Mhm.
for some people, for some, we were slower to the gentle parenting, um, emotional wellness of our loved one movement,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like, a lot of us were, some of it they say is rooted in slavery.
Mhm.
A lot of us
Which I
were,
get. I can
yes,
see why that is.
I would say like Gen X and elder millennials, a lot of us were raised by our grandparents. And
Mhm.
not because our parents were like on drug, like some, okay, drugs and other habits,
Right.
but some, our parents had to work. Both parents had to work. So we had to go to
Yeah.
grandmama and grandpapa's house to be watched or taken care of. And
Mhm.
I feel like our grandparents didn't really know how to give
Yeah.
us emotional and physical intimacy because they never received it. Because think about how far removed your grandparents were from slavery.
Right. And
Not
they couldn't
like
show
right.
emotion.
Their family, their parents probably weren't a hop, skip, and a jump away from slavery.
Right.
So when you look at it like that, or even in the Jim Crow era and just how we were treated, it's like and it's rooted. And I don't want to keep going because we still have other parts to this, but even with
Mhm.
Black women specifically, I find it difficult for us to really engage in emotional intimacy because we were fed this lie, and it is a lie, that we have to always be strong.
Mm. That part.
And because we don't know how not to be strong,
Mhm.
we are unable to really fully step into that emotional side of
Mhm.
us that allows us to have that emotional intimacy. And I think that that is why a lot of us confuse, and so I might get a kickback for this, sorry, but a lot of us confuse physical intimacy with emotional intimacy. And
Yes.
so when we get into these relationships with these men and then they
Mhm.
have sex with us and then they don't call us or they just start
Yes.
acting brand new afterwards,
It's
we don't
devastating.
understand it because we haven't connected the fact that there's an emotional intimacy that needed to be involved for
Mhm.
us that didn't need to be involved
For
for
them.
them.
'Cause they really can't, they are of two minds. They really
Yeah.
can separate.
Yeah. I
They
mean,
really
don't get
can.
it twisted. There are some women that can separate
Oh,
the
for
2.
sure. For
There
sure,
are some women that
honey.
just like, "Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am." But
And I'm done. Thank you.
right, but I feel like for a lot of women, that's where we have run into some trouble when we're
Mhm.
trying to have connections and build relationships with men because that emotional intimacy have we have just seen it as physical intimacy. We have that,
Yeah.
oh, well, if you're physically intimate with me, then that means there's some emotional attachment there.
Right.
And
And there's
that's not.
not. That's how people I think get, and it's interesting that you got to that point because I was going to bring that up too. I think that's how, the friends with benefits, someone always catches feelings.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
This, and that's how you develop situationships.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that situationships never evolve into a relationship because you have confused the two.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And both entities are coming to the table with what they think they can handle.
Mhm.
And I've seen this where a female is like, "Oh, I can do anything you can do, I can do better."
Mhm.
And it's not the case because just based on the feminine space, how we're set up, we're being, we're receiving.
Mhm.
And when you receive, there's just so much more internally that you are going to attach to, not for some, but for a lot, as to why they can operate on this. I'm not dealing with you emotionally, but I think I am, but I don't realize I am until it's too late
Mhm.
because you
Mhm.
really have psyched yourself out thinking, I'm not going to get emotional. I can do whatever.
Mhm.
And in the back of your mind, it's something that you crave because it's just natural to crave that at some point, and then you get attached,
Yeah, yeah.
unbeknownst to you, or you don't realize it, and that's why people get ghosted, and then you upset you got ghosted, and the person was like, "I told you what it was. I told you what it was," and then they looking at you, but I did all this stuff for you, and think about how, and I know this is like kind of off to the side, but I think it's a huge part of how relationships do and do not work, which speak to a whole bunch of other topics that we've touched upon,
Mhm.
because you really feel like you're attached to this person in some way, shape, or form, and you don't want to seem too eager to be with the person, so you fall back, but you know that you really want to be connected, and the connection that you get is sexual, and now y'all think y'all go together,
Mhm.
and no y'all don't.
Right. Because a lot of us just crave the emotional intimacy.
Right.
I love emotional intimacy. I
Yeah.
love feeling I love I think my 2 if you equated these to love languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like mine would be emotional and mental because I
Yeah.
feel like everything else will just fall into place naturally.
I agree.
If I'm not connected to you on a mental level, a mentally intimate level or a emotionally intimate level, then there's no hope for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I
There's
think
no hope for
that's
us. There's no hope for us
right.
because I'm not gonna be able to have that physical level of intimacy with you because I don't have that mental or emotional level of
Mhm.
intimacy. Like, I have had in the past, like, in my 20s, I remember dating someone, in a relationship with someone, and this person was, like, head over heels for me. It just was very clear,
Mhm.
but I just could not connect with them on a mental level. Like,
Yeah.
there was just it was lacking, and I told them, I said, "I can't do this.
Yeah.
You just like this here, this brain of yours, it don't work. It don't work, and I can't. It just don't work. It don't work, and we're not at the same level mentally." And they tried. To their
Right.
credit, they really tried, but I was like, "But now you're trying too hard," and it's just like it should just come naturally. And if it doesn't, then it's
Yeah.
just forced because you're not. This is not who you. This is just not in
Who you
you.
are
Hmm.
when you're with that person. Because think about it, when you are in a relationship with somebody or you're getting to know someone, you sometimes look at people and you're like, how the hell are they together?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
seriously, like how do y'all two end up together
Mhm.
without think and you take the physicality out of it. There's that mental stimulation where you can talk about ideas and perspectives that stimulates you in a different way that causes you to think outside the box and kind of is new and exciting. And those type of things add weight and interest to a relationship that if y'all just bumping skins, y'all not really gonna talk
Right.
but so much. So there's no room for that intellectual or mental connection to
So this is a
happen.
good place to actually talk about what that means. What it
Right.
means to actually have a mental level or intellectual intimacy. Intimacy at a mental or intellectual level with somebody.
Right. Because you think about like some people will talk for hours
Mhm.
about whatever. And you're challenging each other. You're trying to make yourself you without necessarily, I think, setting out to help change that person's point of view,
Mhm.
you present it or you engage in such a way that that person pauses and is like, okay, I'm kind of challenged on this. Let me
Mhm.
go back and forth with this person. And then you kind of discover things together. You have stimulating discussions. You feel safe expressing your
Mm.
views
That's
where
very
vulnerability comes into play again.
yes. That
You
is
know what I
very
mean?
key. That is
Because think
very
about it,
key.
when seduction happens, if we're gonna go on the romantic partner thing, for some women and men, the seduction starts with the intellectual conversations, not with the physicality, because that maintains the interest that you have with that person if you are able to have those types of conversations and intimate expressions of yourself. You're curious, you share points of view, and you can debate and feel safe and not
Mhm.
judged,
Mhm.
which is huge because now if you don't feel judged, you're able to let down your guard. If you're able to let down your guard, then that next step could be that emotional component. That emotional component is fulfilled. Now you can possibly go into the physicality of it. And
Mhm.
those I think is when people say they have like mind-blowing sex or the person is just connected like on another level or something
Mhm.
like that. And they're just like, I'm challenged. You're making me think. Because think about it nowadays. Do people think? No. Which is
Yeah.
why I don't think people can have conversations and they're not, even when you said like with the Gen Zers or X or whatever, that they're not getting married and they're not getting in relationships because they're not intellectually evolved enough to have these types of conversations
It's
because everything is instant gratification. I need it now. I need it now. And you can't talk about anything because nobody knows how to talk to each other because everybody's texting.
right. I read this article recently about IQ and what does like is if what your IQ is, if whatever your IQ is as a young child,
Mm-hmm.
does it, increase, does it ever decrease or whatever. And I read this article, it was very interesting, it was saying like, that whatever when you're younger, your IQ is your IQ and it can get increased. But when you get into your 20s, there's like
Mm-hmm.
fluid IQ where after like your early 20s, your IQ starts to like decline and you're not
Mm.
as smart as you used to be,
Mm.
which makes sense because your brain changes. We know
Yeah.
this, like as we get older, we forget things or
Yeah.
whatever. And that's why it's important to continue to read and keep your mind stimulated and active.
Right.
But that, I mean, I feel like these kids never even reach their full IQ
No.
potential. They just are like
They're
these kids
stunted.
are very I this is a little off topic,
I
but
think these kids are
um
dumb.
yeah, well, facts. My husband sent me a video today from YouTube, and it was like an inside edition segment where they were talking about kids nowadays don't want to drive.
Wait, what?
They don't want to drive. They don't want to learn how
They
to
don't want a
drive.
license?
They don't want a
That was like
license.
the
Yeah,
business.
they don't want a license. And the kid was like, one girl was like, "Oh, it's just too scary to be behind the wheel. I'm just have too much anxiety. It's just too much,
For
right?"
what? What is your anxiety from?
I guess well, I mean, think about it. Driving, cars, all of this. This one kid
We
was
do it
like,
every day. I don't
yeah,
understand.
this one
Wow.
kid was like, "Well, I mean, why do I need to drive when I have Uber?" Like,
Um,
it's like, and then they showed this other kid, and the other kid was like, "Well, I like to drive, but I wanted to learn how to drive so I could have more freedom." But like these kids really just don't want to do anything. And they definitely
so they're
don't
just
want to
lazy and dumb?
yeah, they definitely don't want to take the time to be mentally stimulated by somebody or stimulate
Agreed.
somebody mentally. So I
I
understand why
agree.
there is a growth a stunt in the growth of
Hello,
positive healthy
TikTok.
relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at it. I was like, you know what? I love TikTok for what it is, but if they ban it, so be it. Because I feel like TikTok was what kind of sent us
Yes.
over the edge.
Yes.
It really sent us down because these
Woo!
kids be
It's a
like,
rabbit hole, y'all.
yeah. Oh, this one girl was like, "Oh, look at me. I put my jeans around my neck and now I've discovered this new way of trying on jeans and you don't have to even try on the jeans. You take the jeans you want and put around your neck and if they touch, then that's your waist size." And I'm like,
What?
"Girl, you know we've been doing that since we were like you ain't discover shit."
Well, that's like that one what was it? The award show and they were like it was so nice that Missy Elliott that they gave Missy
Yeah,
Elliott a
I was like,
platform.
"What?" It
And
was no, it was
I'm
the
like,
Super Bowl. It was
the
the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl. I'm like, then I saw they were like this one girl called like the baby hairs sticky bangs, and they like, bitch, that is called baby hairs. You ain't
Baby
discover that,
hair,
but
not no
anyway,
sticky bands.
we're
Right.
getting off the topic. But that I mean, hello, if you, but I use that to say you're dumb, so you aren't going to be able to mentally be intimate with
Right.
anybody because you don't even take the time to educate yourself about the shit that you're
Yourself.
saying out of your freaking mouth.
That's what I'm saying. Like everything is so like think about, and I know
But
this is
But side note,
yeah.
before you go there, we do sound like them two old puppets from the Muppets sitting up his curmudgeon. These goddamn kids, get off my lawn. That just, and I'm fully aware of that, folks. Okay, so y'all don't
And
have to
I'm
hit
okay
me
with
up.
that
Yeah,
because I don't want all the stuff that we may have built in our generation to just fall and crumble because y'all are too lazy and dumb
yes,
to intellectualize and comprehend what you need to do to maintain it.
yeah. So,
Honestly.
mhm.
Like the
But yeah. So, oh, what's the next thing? Because we're
next one is
four.
spiritual intimacy. So before I get into this, I the first example that I have of this is like when it for those of you on the show who listen to the show who have watched Different Worlds, right?
Yeah.
Walk with me through this. Cree, Summer, and Gary Durden. I can't remember their right names right now.
Shaza and
Sh-
Freddie.
yes, like
Mm-hmm.
they had that whole little
Spiritual
spiritual
intimacy. Yes.
intimacy,
Yes.
twin flame,
Yes.
like I see you
Yes.
type of thing. And when I say I see you, that they see that person for who they are and who they represent.
That's a very good example. Uh-huh.
And that was the one thing that I thought of when I was going through this for me to illustrate that the best way because that's something you can see a
Mhm.
connection or some people may equate it to like the 70s and flower children and people were all lovey-dovey on I mean there were a lot of drugs involved in that
Or
too.
Erica Badu and whoever she's
Yeah,
with
whoever she with that
at the
this week.
time.
Yes. Because those men are under her spell.
Yes.
I'm telling you, wearing cardigan or those crochet pants, Common. I'm just saying, you have to be spiritually connected on another level to wear some crochet pants. You still fine though, sir.
Side
Anyway, I
note,
digress.
whatever she does, girl,
Yo, she made a candle over her vajayjay. Y'all heard that right?
yes, I just whatever she got going on over there, whatever,
Yeah.
voodoo,
Voodoo,
whatever,
Oshun.
she got
Hello.
it because look at
Yes.
Andre 3000 was straight Atlanta
Yo.
hood. Got with him. got with
And now
her.
you see him on Hey Ya.
Now, or now he walking around LA with a flute, like
I don't
that
know
man.
what she got
That man ain't never been the same. Like
at
you
the
said,
man. None of them have.
no.
Think about it.
Common was Chicago cold. Got with her, and like
Yes.
you said, was wearing crochet bell bottom pants.
Exactly. Exactly. But that spiritual thing that, and even going delving deeper into like the feminine and the masculine energy, we can
Mhm.
talk about. That's another show. And the existence of that and how it presents
Mhm.
itself. And it's not sex based, not gender based. It's a frame of how people relate to each other. But it's still a bit of a blurred concept to a lot of people. It doesn't mean both people have the same belief system, the same religious belief system. It's a little bit beyond that. So I wouldn't say I'm religious. I'm a spiritual person who I have a connection with my creator. I wouldn't say I follow a particular doctrine. So
Mhm.
there's that separation when I'm saying spiritual. It's not in that Bible sense or Quran or anything to that effect. It's more of a ethereal type
Your
of.
higher purpose.
Yes, and you connect with that and that person,
Mhm.
and you figure out how you want to show up for the world. And to nourish it, you learn about each other's practices, beliefs, and why that's important to that person. And you take the time to understand the counterpoints in that other person so that you can maybe better understand it in yourself should that relationship go in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but that was the one thing I could think of.
That's a good example because I would also say that they had a definite spiritual,
Yeah.
intimate relationship.
Hmm.
Um, I would say when we're talking about this, we talked about some obstacles, but not all. But there
Hmm.
are some obstacles to intimacy that we face. We know every relationship has its ups and downs.
Hmm.
And those ups and downs can sometimes make intimacy difficult at times. And
Hmm.
so, or, you've been with somebody for 10, 15 years, sometimes the intimacy fades, right?
Yeah.
I think we will talk about how, no, well, yeah, how to get back to that if you have
Yeah.
lost it. But some problems that can impair intimacy are conflicts. Think about it: resentment, anger. If y'all are in the
Mm.
middle of a disagreement or a fight, that could cause some obstacles to your
Mhm.
intimacy, stress, you know, think about parents. Like if you're a
That's
parent,
huge.
yeah, if you're a parent and
Huge.
you're stressed, you're always like having to work, like you're a single parent, or maybe it's a two-parent household and someone got laid off, or the parents are having difficulties in their relationship, so it starts to
Mhm.
affect the relationships that they have with their children.
Yeah.
It's going to chip away at the level of intimacy you're going to be able to exhibit in that
Mm.
household.
True.
Communication problems. Communication is a big one. Like if you
Woo!
aren't able to
Number one.
communicate, with one another, you're gonna struggle. If you have a hard time articulating your feelings, or you feel like when I do articulate my feelings, I'm not being heard, I'm being
Mm.
silenced, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, there's gonna be issues with intimacy.
I think communication is like the foothold or the cornerstone of what breeds everything else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there are a lot of people who fear intimacy, and I think that the fear
Mhm.
of intimacy comes from a lot of different things, right? It could be linked to your sense of losing your identity. You feel like I don't want to be intimate with this
Mm.
person because if I do, then I'm not going to be the individual anymore. It's going to be
Right.
a couple. I'm going to be a pair. I'm going to always be associated with this person. A child is going to fear intimacy because they're going to be afraid of disappointing a parent. So they choose
Mhm.
not to even have an intimate relationship with them because they don't want to feel that rejection of
Right.
sorts, right? They don't want to feel that shame or that disappointment because they feel like if I do have this close relationship with you, then when I disappoint you, I'm going to be hurt by that and I don't want to, so I'm going to keep you at distance.
Mhm.
Um and sometimes there's traumas. Past traumas can cause you to have a fear of intimacy. It could be something as simple as your first time out the gate being like emotionally and physically intimate with somebody and they treated you the worst ever. And now
Mhm.
from that point on, every relationship you have, you cannot get intimate because of that one time, that one situation, that one incident. So,
For sure. And then on the flip side, on the positive note of the impact of intimacy, when we're looking at intimacy, like we had mentioned, it's essential to any type of relationship, sexual, non sexual. It's a foundation for connection and communication. Everybody feels understood. They can be themselves and they get the care and the comfort that they need from whomever they're interacting with, that they need it from: parent, child, spouse, partner, what have you, friendships, and the like. As far as the physical and romantic part, there's an increased sexual desire. Couples experience more emotional intimacy. They experience higher levels of sexual desire and activity because they feel heard, they feel understood. Their partner, they want to feel vulnerable. They want to get frisky now because they feel safe with that person. So they're more inclined to let their guard down. There's more relationship satisfaction. They tend to be more satisfied and enjoying the relationship. Physical health, if you're taking care of all of these things and you feel good about yourself, there's a tendency to make sure that you are healthy yourself. You're more inclined to take better care of yourself. And your mental health is huge because you feel heard, you feel seen, and you're communicating at a higher level, that you're like, okay, my mind is where it needs to be. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel like I'm being ignored, and it takes away from any negative effects of those things not happening
Right.
for your relationship.
And so if you feel like right now that there are some obstacles to your intimacy, whether it's familial, intimate
Mhm.
partner, friends. There's some ways to overcome that, right? Name what's happening and identify your symptoms, right? It may not even be obvious to you. What are the
Mhm.
obstacles that you're facing? Is it conflict? Is it stress? Is it fear of intimacy? Is it communication problems, right? You ask yourself questions. Do you isolate yourself from other people? Do you
Mhm.
have low self esteem? Do you have a hard time staying present during sex? Do you avoid letting people get to know you? If that's the case, then maybe there is something that's going on, and maybe you need to kind of dive deeper into that to kind of figure out, okay, yeah, I am experiencing some issues when it comes to intimacy, and I need to, I see some of these obstacles. So let me figure out what's at the root of it. Maybe you need to figure out what your boundaries are, right? You know, you could have a fear of intimacy, but it's understandable because of some type of trauma like sexual
Right.
assault or
Mhm.
neglect, right? Childhood neglect. So maybe you have your guard up for a reason, and maybe you need to heal that part. Maybe there's, because a lot of times after we've been abused, whether it's, by a love interest, intimate partner, a family member, or something, we try to protect ourselves from judgment and further harm. And we do
Mhm.
that by isolating ourselves from the rest of the world. Sometimes we do it physically by just not being around people, but sometimes we do it with our emotions. And
Mhm.
that's where you see a lot of lack of intimacy in between couples, or maybe you're with somebody right now and you just can't get close to them and you can't figure out why. And maybe it's because they have had some trauma in their life that is keeping them from really fully experiencing all levels of intimacy and a very
Right.
pure and vulnerable standpoint. Communicate your feelings. Tell a parent, like, look, I'm having a hard time building trust with you because you did something that made me distrust you, and that has caused me not to be able to have any type of intimacy with you at all. And we
Mhm.
need to fix that. We need to heal that. We need to work on that.
Mhm.
It's okay to tell people in your life. I think this is something that's very important. We never tell, I feel like people are afraid to tell people in their lives what they need for them to be safe in the relationship.
Yeah, that's huge though. Like, that's, I think, even when I've been in therapy or through my studies with psychology and stuff like that, that is one of the pivotal points of a relationship: being able to communicate if you feel safe or not, and
Yes.
what safe looks like to you.
What does it look like? That's something that I had to learn, like you said, through therapy, which is like, what makes you feel safe?
Mhm.
And a lot of times what makes people feel safe is connected to levels of intimacy, your love
Mhm.
language. Like, what makes you feel like you can really open yourself up to somebody? And once you
Right.
feel like you've discovered that and you have the communication with your partner or your loved one, if they're not receptive to that, then you need to figure out what your next steps are going to be, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging moving through that relationship. Because I'm going to tell you, I know firsthand, if I don't feel safe, And safe isn't always about like physical safety. Like,
Right.
I know you can beat somebody up for me, or I
Yeah,
know
that's
you
not
can
it.
protect me. No, if I
Not the
don't feel
bravado.
right, if I don't feel safe, I am not gonna have any level of intimacy with you whatsoever because I
Mhm.
don't feel like you will be able to protect my emotions, my heart, my
Mm.
mind, my spirit in a
Yeah.
way that's gonna make me be comfortable with letting go. And I feel like a lot of women who are these strong, independent women, I feel like they are that way because they just don't feel safe.
Yeah, that's true. But think about it, on the flip side of that, depending on how you were brought up or whatever your
Yeah,
life experiences are, you may not know how
to feel safe
to
and let
feel
go.
safe
Yeah,
so
that's
that you
true.
can make someone else feel safe.
That's true.
So then
Those
you
are
guys are
facts.
kind of like
Just
in an
doing the
endless
dance.
cycle,
Mhm.
and it just is forever not broken. And then I think that's also why certain relationships, parental, familial, just don't work,
Yeah,
because you have to do the work.
right.
I think the holistic psychologist, um, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's amazing. Check her out. Check out the book. It's a great book. And she has a IG page, but she talks about all of this stuff and how do you feel safe and what does that look like? And if you don't know what that means, you can't give it to anybody else, let alone yourself. Well, you
Right.
can't give it to yourself, let alone anyone else.
Those are facts. And I feel like hopefully for my daughter, for everybody else's children out there, that it will be better for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of us are learning a better way. And hopefully my daughter will meet somebody's son and their son is fully healed because their parent did the work and their parent
Mm-hmm.
put the time to invest in making sure that their son, or if she chooses something else,
Mm-hmm.
whoever her partner is, I hope that their parents did the work to really nurture them and make them whole so that you don't come and be dusty with my child.
But don't be dusty.
Cause my child ain't gonna be dusty with yours, okay?
Right.
My child is going to be like, sometimes it makes me like emotionally like I well up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my child is so in tune with her emotions at such a young age. She's so empathetic, and I hope that the world does not fuck her over and make
Because of
her
that.
hard and cold because she is such a sweet child. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, she got some spicy parts too.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It
She got
is
some
true.
spicy parts to her. She really, really does. But she really cares and is in tune. Like, I was the other day, I got so stressed or frustrated over something, and it didn't even have anything to do with her. And I was like, oh, she came over to me. She put her hand on my shoulder. She's like, Mom, are you okay? And I was like,
Oh,
oh.
right?
She's like, "Are
And
you
it's
mad? Are you angry?" I
oh,
was like, "No, baby, I'm okay. I'm okay. Mommy is okay. You don't got to worry about mommy. Mommy is going to be
right.
okay." And then, I realized I was like, "You know what? Mm-mm." I said, "You know what, Charlie? Mommy's not okay right now. And that's okay." I was like, "Mommy's just a little frustrated. It doesn't have anything to do with you." I
Mhm.
was like, "And sometimes we get frustrated, and it's okay to express your frustration
Right.
as
That
long as
was a
you're doing it
teaching
in
moment.
yeah, as long as you're doing it in a healthy
Mhm.
way." And then she looked at me, she's like, "Okay," because I didn't want her to think like, "Oh, like, because I do that. Like, I've been trained to be like, "Oh, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm
Right.
fine. I'm good. You ain't got to worry
And
about me." And I was like,
that's that
"No."
strong thing.
Yes, I stopped myself. I was like, "You know what, Charlie? No. Mommy's not okay right now in this moment, but I will be." I was like, "I'm just frustrated over something. It has nothing to do with you." I was just
Mhm.
like, I was just trying to get something accomplished and it didn't get accomplished. And I was like, sometimes that happens, but I'll be fine. I'm going to recover quickly from it. We'll be good. She's like, "Okay." And I felt like, whew, I learned and
Mhm.
therefore I am teaching her.
Right. And I think it's important to that point. So growing up, I was deemed as the sensitive child. I'm an
Mhm.
empath, which I didn't learn until later in life.
Mhm.
So I pick up on people's emotions. I feel what
Mhm.
other people feel. Some people think I'm too nice. People think I'm too sensitive.
Mhm.
And at some point, I used to feel like I would get offended by that. But
Mhm.
for me to be able to be in a position to express what my feelings are, that takes a lot more courage to me than hiding and saying everything is fine,
Right.
because you're able to talk through. Now, the only thing with that is some people mistake that kindness for weakness,
Mhm.
which is to unfortunately some people's detriment, and this is and the world does not take kindly to those that have that part of their emotional wearing their heart on their sleeve to their benefit.
Mhm.
And it's a balance to the way the world is and the world
Mhm.
has become, but you got to have some humanity
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have to be able to gauge it. But I think being able to communicate and feel that you're vulnerable and to express where your head is at and if you're not okay, um I think it also goes back to the whole, you don't telling people not to cry.
Right.
Like you're teaching people to suppress their emotions. You're teaching people not to share. You're teaching people not to connect, not to communicate, and not
Right.
to be able to embrace who they are and what they're feeling, which in turn, I would say, is a detriment to your mental health.
And that's why the
Y-
one of the last things that you need to do to be able to overcome some of these
Yep.
things is go get professional help, which we always say.
Exactly.
Which we always say.
Exactly. So, and then when you have all these things, and let's say you go, you get your professional help, you take those lessons learned from them. How do you nurture your intimacy in any relationship? You know, like Z mentioned before, it's normal for relationships to feel stagnant, like the spark is gone, life be lifing, and
Mhm.
like, everything gets in the way. And before you look up, months later, a year later, things are different. And you're like, how did that happen? Because you settle into a routine and, you have to figure out a way to how to reignite that. Make it a point to show your appreciation for your respective partner, parent, spouse, mentor, what have you. To pour back into those people. And hopefully they'll be able to pour back into you as well. And, take time for gratitude. I know like mindfulness has been like all the rage over the past couple of years, but there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of substance to being mindful and having gratitude for someone for saying thank you, gifts or favors, but not I'm just like snowing people with gifts or anything like that, but coming from a genuine place of appreciation. And then making an effort to invest and learn about the other person, be it your whatever connections you may have that we've already talked about. People grow and change, and I think it's this statement I think is huge for all of us, that a lot of our relationships change because we're changing and we may not be aware of that we're changing. But we also take point that the other person is changing as well. So you kind of have to pause and take stock and figure out who that person is in this new phase of their life, because you can't remain stagnant your whole life. Like you have to evolve. And when you evolve, your needs change, your level of intimacy and understanding of intimacy changes. And what does that look like and how are you able to interact? Setting aside time for each other, planning a date night or a monthly board game night with the family. I know my family, we're a very affectionate family. We have, like any family, we have our issues, but we would have game board night, Uno or Monopoly and all that other stuff. And you know how Monopoly is. That game is treacherous when it comes to
Mhm.
family. That and Scrabble. But that's a time of bonding, appreciation, check-ins on each other before bedtime. So there's one thing. So with me and Z and me and all my friends, right? Anytime we part from each other, we're like text each other when we get home,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter where or how far you may be from somebody. You always, and I think that is a level of intimacy and interest and appreciation that you have for our friend group, for our tribe, because we want to make sure that we're good. We all have our respective relationships within our group and our tribe, but we do vibe checks. We
Mhm.
just, get a pulse on where folks are, because we know we're not always able to do that all the time, but when we are together and we part, there is that check in. How y'all doing? What's up? And then the
Mhm.
unplugging and focusing on each other, and that is like putting. And the unplug is huge, man. Because when I tell you, people are addicted to their phones and have no conversation with the phones, and they don't know how to talk to people. There's no way that you can develop intimacy if you're not talking to somebody, like
Right.
or engaging with someone at some level. Spending times on electronics, you need to put it down. Give people the undivided attention that they deserve. Nobody on the TV or in the phone or in that thread is that important, because that's when you miss subtleties of maybe when someone is crying out for help. I think that's a lot of times when
Right.
people miss those things. and then not even like just being physically in the space of somebody, and seeing how that you can pick up things where that you're able to engage on a more intimate level with someone when you are not attached to your phone. Tackle a project together, work on something like, we haven't done this in a while, but we used to get together, I guess it was pre-COVID, for our little vision boards and like chit
Mhm.
chats and all those things. And we still have our time, but that's like another check-in type thing, and doing a project that we're all working on together at the same time. And then, convey to everybody what your interpretation of intimacy is to you. Tell
Mhm.
your loved one,
Mhm.
whomever that may be, if it's like, do you want to spend time together? Do you want to go hiking or go shopping?
Absolutely.
Go to the nail
Absolutely.
spot. I mean, whatever. But communicate, and it all comes down to communication. If you're not having those conversations because you're too plugged into your phone, putting jeans around your neck, discovering shit that has already been discovered, like Christopher Columbus, you're gonna miss the boat. You're gonna miss that connection with people that is so vital to developing these intimate relationships that are paramount for our existence. And I feel like in today's world, that's not valued as much, and it's showing in how people show up by saying they don't want to do certain things, or they can't be bothered, or they
Yep.
have anxiety.
Yep.
And I think anxiety to a point, and not this is not dismissing those who have anxiety. If you have an intimate relationship with certain individuals, I think that alleviates some of the anxiety you may have developed, because you're in a position to communicate how you're feeling to somebody because you feel safe, to alleviate what you may be feeling or showing up as anxiety, you
Right.
know. But that's my take on where we are with this intimate world, or non intimate world, however you want to call it. Because I'm telling you, these electronics, technology is the best and the worst thing that has happened to us. And I think it's robbing us of our
Absolutely.
intimacy tenfold.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It is, but we hope you all learned something.
Mm-hmm.
You all learned something from it, because it was, it's a lot, and intimacy is just one of those things that we felt like was important to talk about, because we've talked about so many relationship things, and this is one of those aspects that we don't really talk about from all the other
Right.
angles. We always talk about physical intimacy, but we're never talking about all the other components that go into it. But we're going to take a break and come back with our last 15. And we are back. This is the last sip of tea with your Hood Dalai Lama. I am your Hood Dalai Lama. I don't have anything to say other than make sure your kid ain't dusty, because I don't want them to come to my kid being
We don't want
dusty,
no dusty
because
kids.
she ain't gonna be
I
dusty.
don't want my
Okay.
niece linking up with no dusty people.
No,
Okay?
my
None of
my
my
my child is
nieces
not gonna be
or
with a
nephews.
dusty.
No
She is
dustiness.
going to be very, very in tune with her feelings, her
And not
emotions, and
apologize
don't y'all
for it.
right. So don't y'all come over here with y'all dusty kids trying to get her to change her boundaries. Because that's not the type of time we on over here, okay?
Facts, facts. So thank you all for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. As you know, you can follow us on IG, Sippin' Tea _Nat and Z _pod. And on Facebook, Sippin' Tea, Nat and Z, to get info on upcoming podcasts, topics, guests, and news. Thanks for listening, and catch us next episode where we get into healing our inner child, y'all. Yes.
Well, maybe. I don't know for sure if that's the next.
We may change it up for y'all. So stay tuned, because Z be doing a bomb job distributing all the graphics and all that. So much props to you, Z, on handling that with the IG and the little tidbits and notes and all that stuff. So
You're welcome. You're welcome.
toot toot. All right, y'all. Have a good week.